Hello, my name is Maxwell Keiles, and this is my final video essay for my new queer cinema class. I'm going to be discussing Tom Kalin's film Swoon from 1992, which depicts the real-life murder in 1924 by Nathan Leopold Jr. and Richard Loeb. I want to discuss in this essay the mise-en-scène of the film and how the director uses atemporality in both the set design and the cinematography itself to further the themes of the film. At first glance, the film seems like something that not only depicts an event from the 1920s, but could conceivably be made at that time as well, with its deliberately scratchy audio monochrome look and the fact that it was made on a budget of $250,000. Once again, this film was released in 1992. For reference, this year saw the release of Batman Returns and Reservoir Dogs. This was obviously a deliberate choice, but that, of course, raised the question, what was it chosen for? The first idea that may naturally pop in your head might be to invoke feelings of that era. The first issue of that is that the 1920s, much like the rest of history, was in fact in color and not black and white. Meaning it does not invoke the era itself, but a film that theoretically could have been made at that time. This, however, doesn't explain many of the technological choices in this film. For example, while this takes place in 1929, if it was specifically invoking the era, it would be a silent film, as the first talkie would not come out until a year later. There are also a multitude of physical objects, like a TV clicker, that simply did not exist in the time period in which this film takes place, as explained by the director in his interview.
So I want to take something that's real and help you see that real thing. In Swoon, I'm obviously not interested in historical fidelity because there are push-button phones and people all the time think I have made a mistake in the movie. I actually know that there were not push-button phones in the 20s. No one points out in Swoon, it's very rarely pointed out, there's a scene in the movie where the women are asked to leave the courtroom and the black female stenographer has to leave. But there were no black female stenographers in Chicago in 1924 at all. By casting a black female stenographer, I'm actually doing a Brechtian thing. Yes, I went to art school, which is basically, asking you to sort of, think about what you're seeing, think about the storytelling. So I'm often trying to skew the elements of the storytelling around period to heighten that quality. And I'm very, very indebted to the filmmaker Derek Jarman, who was.
Moreover, many of the camera works and camera tricks in this movie could not physically have been possible in the 1930s or 40s or 50s or even 60s. This is evident in something as simple as the aspect ratio, which until 1950s was standard as a 4:3 rather than 16:9. So, why is all of this done? We've established that it is a time period that cannot be and has not been. So why make it this at all? Why this confusion? Why this deliberate difference? I believe it is a deliberate attempt by the director to make you feel a sense of unease and unbelonging. The crime took place many, many years ago, and some of the sentiments have changed surrounding queerness since then, but not all of it. In fact, it is far too common for things to have stayed the same, and while many of the aspects of this film are archaic, some of which are still around today. For example, in the scene referenced earlier by the director, while women would, in today's day and age, would not be asked to leave the courtroom, there is still a sense of the fact that queerness is a faint of heart subject that is not for the delicate ears like white women, especially when this film was created in the 1990s. The audience is experiencing a sense of familiarity of a time long gone, and yet had never existed, and yet still is eerily similar to the realities of the day. All of this is best exemplified in a scene with Loeb sitting at dinner with his family, just casually talking about the murder that he committed.
I would ask everyone in Chicago to look around him and to note whether neighbors, friends, acquaintances showed signs of muddy clothes, shoes, and so forth, or muddy and dirty automobiles, and who was away from their usual haunt and calling on Wednesday afternoon and night.
I think whoever did it should be tarred, feathered, and hung.
I agree completely. Whoever did this must be some kind of deranged pervert to kill a little boy like that.
Absolutely.
I still can't believe it. What a terrible loss.
It is. May I be excused?
What for this time?
I just remembered I have to stop by Nathan's house.
Again?
Yes, again.
The reason this scene is so effective is first shown by what precedes it. It is a newscaster interviewing other people surrounding the events of the murder. When we see another talking head, we are under the assumption that he is either another newscaster or another interviewee simply recounting the events of the murder or giving his opinion on the subject. This assumption is immediately corrected by the camera, which continuously pans to reveal other guests at the dinner party, and showing this person is just making polite conversation. The pan, it is worth noting, does not fully stop after the first person, just slows down and continues. We also see that everyone besides Loeb is not really taking it seriously. It is an abstract academic problem, but is not something that affects them directly. Ironic considering one of the murderers is in the room speaking about it. This too is a surprise, as before he is on screen, we have no idea that it is his family. We are in their position of it is just a random conversation made in polite company, rather than a deeply mortifying act by the queer murderer. The pan itself also displays a deliberate lack of spatial awareness and continuity. Usually, shot continuity is used to inform who is in where in relationship to other people and other objects. But here, the order in which the pan occurs shows that there is no physical way for people to be in the order that is shown on screen. Editing and cinematography like this is usually meant to increase verisimilitude, not completely destroy it for the sake of a uneasy feeling. This also can be read a bit more literally as well, as it is textually an uncomfortable dinner with your parents about hiding the fact that you're gay. In fact, Loeb still goes to see his boyfriend and murder partner right after dinner, and his family are suspicious of why he's doing that. Just going to show how much versatility is in this scene, furthering both the plot, characters, themes, and overall feel of the movie, all in harmony. This entire scene, of course, is contrasted by the one that comes after, where the two lovers finally embrace in a scene where the editing is quite still and natural. This is to show that in their world, queerness is the norm and what is comfortable for them, while heterosexual family dinners needing to hide their identity is something that puts them off kilter and messes with their perception of reality. But why does any of this matter? After all, this is a class for new queer cinema about a very queer movie. Who cares that the vibes are a bit off and some objects appear that shouldn't exist yet? What does it mean? Why was it put there in the first place? And how does it further the themes of the movie? I believe it is meant to invoke the unease and, frankly, stupidity of the era. Nothing made sense, up was down, left was right when it came to morality. It is very clear throughout the film that while this indeed started as a murder case, it eventually morphed both in the public eye and in the legal context to a gay case. Not just any gay case, mind you. If it was some riffraff off the street, the people would be fine. But no, it is a rich person's queer crime. These are upper-class Jewish people who, had they not committed this murder or worse, been gay, would have been upstanding members of the higher class society. When said out loud like that, it sounds like the most ridiculous moral standards ever. And it was, from a view of from the future to the past. This is the purpose of the first half of the equation. Why it is meant to evoke the style of the past. You're meant to look back on it as someone from the future with modern knowledge of the fact that while it was bad back then, it could never be like that now. Sure, homophobia still exists, but as you can see from this film and our collective memory, it has gotten much better, and we might be able to rest on our laurels a bit. That is why there is all the anachronisms, the rotary phone, the weird editing choices, the fact that while it's in black and white, it is a full talkie film with aspect ratios that would not be for a very long time. The audience is meant to understand that this version of queerness that we think of in the past as being hyper-vilified, while was the case, isn't exactly as we remember it, and is still lingering today as the modern elements bleed into the past with the editing and the objects.
Wrong, but the idea of, in my brain, I'm very pessimistic about the state of the world, but somewhere still inside myself, I'm incredibly optimistic about the capacity of change and the need for activism and the belief that gathering together and having a conversation, even if it's in a context like this, can change people or affect people. I'm not writing a biography. I'm not writing a piece of nonfiction. I'm telling a story, definitely. So the fidelity of the facts, I'm drawn to these true stories often because I'm shocked by the actual factual content. Like, it amazes me that Nathan Leopold was captured because he lost his glasses at the scene of the crime, and there was a rare hinge, and that rare hinge led the police back to him. And to me, that seems also interesting because at some level, it suggests that Nathan Leopold, on the unconscious level, wanted to be discovered. He dropped his glasses so the whole world would know that he was having a homosexual relationship with Richard Loeb.
I believe Tom Kalin there summed up my argument quite nicely. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.